Welcome to the Bodhi Academy. My name is Shrutika and let us continue with the part 2 of our chapter 6 Respiration in Organisms. So in our previous video, in our part 1, the we have learned about what is respiration, how respiration takes place at a cellular level, and what are the types of respiration, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So in our today's class, let us learn about breathing and how the breathing is done. So what is breathing? So what is breathing? So breathing is basically, it is the process in which air rich in oxygen is taken inside and air rich in carbon dioxide is given out with the help of respiratory organs. Thus breathing involves two steps which takes place alternatively. Okay. So breathing is basically, it is a process Okay. So breathing, it is what? It is a process. Process of what? It is process of taking in oxygen. Okay. Oxygen rich air is taken in and carbon dioxide is released, and the process of taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide is called as breathing. The breathing involves two steps. Which are the two steps? The two steps are inhalation and exhalation. So what is inhalation? In breathing we are taking in oxygen. So inhalation basically means taking in air rich in oxygen into our body. So this process wherein we are taking in oxygen in our body is called as inhalation. So inhalation is basically taking in of oxygen. So breathing takes place by inhalation of inhalation of oxygen rich air in our body, and exhalation is basically exhalation. So exhalation is a process of what? Giving out air rich in carbon dioxide from our body to the external environment, and this is called as exhalation. And inhalation is basically the process of taking in oxygen. So the breathing process, that is taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide, takes place by two steps, that is inhalation of oxygen rich air in our body, and exhalation is giving out of carbon dioxide rich air in outside our body into the external environment. And this process which takes place simultaneously, that is taking in of oxygen and giving out of oxygen through inhalation and exhalation, is called as breathing. So this is the concept of breathing. So now let us know what is the rate of breathing. So basically now we know that what is breathing. Breathing is basically inhaling oxygen and giving out, it is exhaling carbon dioxide. So how do we calculate the breathing rate, as in what is breathing, how individual breathe, that the amount of air which is taken in and amount of air which is given out, it is calculated by the breathing rate of the person. So breathing, the number of times a person breathes in a minute, is termed as the breathing rate. So in a minute, so in 1 minute, okay, how much time a individual breathes? What is that? In 1 minute, how many times the individual inhales the air and exhales the air? So this amount is in a minute is called as the breathing rate. An adult human being can inhale and exhale 15 to 18 times in a minute. it is the average breathing rate of an individual. Okay, so 15 to 18 times inhaling and exhaling, that is breathing 15 to 18 times in a minute, it is the basic or a standard breathing rate of an individual, of a human being. So this is how we can calculate what the breathing rate. So in 1 minute you have to see how many times you are taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide, and that many times the time, the amount of this that amount of the number which you will get will be the number of times that will be the breathing rate of an individual in 1 minute. So this is how we can calculate what the breathing rate of any individual. So we now know what is breathing and what is breathing rate and how to calculate the breathing rate of an organism. So now let us see how this breathing happens, as in what is the mechanism of breathing. So what is breathing we know. So how the breathing happens in an individual. In an individual we have something called as the respiratory organ. So here this is the human respiratory system. So we have a respiratory system which will cause the we have a human respiratory system which will help in the breathing process. Okay, so now let us see how this breathing happens in an individual. So breathing, basically the mechanism of breathing can be understood by the following points. So normally we take in air, so through our nose, that is through our nostrils, what we will do is we take in air. Okay, when we inhale air, it passes through the nostrils into the nasal cavity. Okay, and from the nasal cavity the air reaches our lungs through the windpipe, and lungs are present in the chest cavity. This cavity is surrounded by ribs on the sides, and a large muscular sheet called diaphragm forms the floor of the chest cavity. So these are the points as in how the breathing mechanism takes place. So now let us understand that with a diagram. So this is the nasal passage. So this is the nasal cavity over here. Okay, so this is what the nasal cavity over here. Okay, so from here what the air will enter, that is oxygen enters through the nasal passage. First the air through the nostrils will enter and we inhale the air that will pass through the nostrils into the nasal cavity. The nasal cavity, the air reaches our lung through the windpipe. Now okay, here see, the windpipe consists of what? The pharynx and the trachea. So from here now the air that we breathe will enter through the windpipe into our lungs. So we have two lungs, this is 1 and 2. So we have our lungs. So from here when it enters, it will go into both the lungs, the air that we breathe. Okay, the lungs are then protected with the base part of the lung is called the diaphragm, and the lungs are protected by a structure called as the ribs, which helps in protection of both the lungs. So inside the lungs then the respiration process takes place, and then the air containing carbon dioxide, first this thing will be absorbed, that is oxygen will be taken in by the lungs, and then through the same passage from where the oxygen has entered, through same passage the carbon dioxide will be given out of the lungs, out from the lungs through the windpipe and through the nasal cavity, and through the nasal passage the carbon dioxide will be given out. And this is how the process of breathing takes place in the human respiratory system. So today we have learned about breathing and how the process of breathing happens, that is inhalation and exhalation of air, and in which organ the breathing takes place, that is in the human respiratory system. And we have seen how the human respiratory system works, as in how breathing happens in the respiratory system. So thank you for watching today's video. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe.